Hello, everyone! Welcome to Ollie's Top 10!
All right, today we are diving deep into one of Sherlock Holmes's most famous cases, a scandal in Bohemia. And this story is incredible because it's not just about his brilliant methods, it's about the one time he came up against an adversary who was truly his equal. The whole thing kicks off with this killer opening line from Watson. It just grabs you, right? Because in the world of Sherlock Holmes, this cold, logical mind that saw emotion as a flaw, like a crack in a magnifying glass, there was one person who broke through all of that. And that person was Irene Adler. But to really understand why she was so unique, we first have to get inside Holmes's head. Watson calls him the most perfect reasoning and observing machine that the world has ever seen. So what does that actually mean in practice?
This right here, this is the absolute core of his genius. See, Watson thinks he's just as good at looking at things, but Holmes hits him with this crucial line. You see, but you do not observe. Think about it. We all see the steps to our front door every single day, but Holmes observes them, and that's why he knows, without a doubt, there are exactly 17.
And here's that philosophy in action. He just glances down at Watson's shoe. He doesn't just see some mud. He observes 6 tiny, parallel cuts. From that one little detail, he infers that someone scraped it carelessly. And from that, he concludes that Watson's been out in horrible weather and, oh, by the way, has a really clumsy servant. It's this perfect little chain of logic, all starting from one tiny observation.
So let's get to the case itself and see how this method gets put to the ultimate test. It all starts when this mysterious unsigned note shows up in the mail promising a visit from a masked man about something incredibly important.
I mean, right away, the vibe is just pure secrecy and high stakes. This guy isn't just asking for privacy, he's demanding total anonymity. You just know this is going to be big before he even sets foot in 221B Baker Street. So before he's even met the client, Holmes has his first clue. Now, looking at just this piece of paper, what would you deduce? Because Holmes, he isn't just reading the words, he's observing the paper itself. And here is his brilliant breakdown. First, he feels the paper. It's peculiarly strong and stiff, so he knows it's not English. Then he holds it up to the light, finds the watermark, and traces it all the way to a paper company in Bohemia. And the final touch? He analyzes the grammar, that kind of clunky German way of structuring a sentence, and concludes the writer is German. So get this, he knows his client is a German with ties to Bohemia before the man even says a word. Then the visitor arrives, a 6'6" giant of a man, dripping with what Watson calls barbaric opulence. Holmes, totally unfazed by the mask, immediately calls him Your Majesty, and boom, it's the King of Bohemia. And his problem? A photograph, a very compromising photograph of him with an American opera singer, Irene Adler, who was a former flame, and now she's holding it over his head, threatening to destroy his upcoming royal marriage. Now, the king's already tried using brute force, and let me tell you, it did not go well. We're talking burglaries, ambushes, diverting her luggage, 5 different attempts, and they all came up with absolutely nothing. This tells Holmes something huge. He is not dealing with your average person. Irene Adler is smart, she's careful, and she seems to be one step ahead of everyone. So Holmes knows that force is completely off the table. He has to turn to his favorite weapon, his mind. He decides the only way he's going to beat Irene Adler is to get into her world, and that means it's time to go undercover. Dressed as a sort of scruffy-looking stable hand, Holmes spends the morning just observing. He hangs out at the local stables, picking up gossip. He finds out she really only has one regular male visitor, a lawyer named Godfrey Norton. Then he actually sees Norton show up in a huge rush, and moments later, Irene herself bursts out of the house, yelling at her coachman to get her to the Church of St. Monica in 20 minutes. Holmes knows something critical is happening, so he follows her cab. He gets to the church thinking he's about to spy on some secret meeting. But instead, he gets pulled right into the middle of the action in a way he could never have seen coming. He gets literally dragged inside and right up to the altar. Turns out the priest was refusing to marry Irene Adler and Godfrey Norton without a proper witness. And so, in this moment of pure, bizarre chance, the shabby stable hand, Sherlock Holmes in disguise, is forced to be the best man at the wedding of the very woman he's investigating. Now this wedding, it complicates things.
But it also confirms his theory. The photograph has to be in her house, somewhere she can grab it in a hurry. So now all he has to do is get her to show him where. And this leads to his master plan, a brilliant piece of theater starring himself and, of course, Dr. Watson.
The plan is it's pure psychological genius. Holmes hires some guys to stage a fight right outside her door. He, now disguised as a sweet old clergyman, gets hurt while trying to protect her. She, of course, insists he be brought into her house to recover. Then on his signal, Watson chucks a smoke rocket through the window and screams, "Fire!" The goal? To just watch and see where her instincts make her go. And the logic behind this whole elaborate setup is so simple but so brilliant. Holmes figures that when you think your house is burning down, your first instinct is to save the one thing you value most. For Irene Adler, he bets that's not her jewelry. It's the photograph. The fake panic will make her give away its location without even thinking.
And the plan works. Oh, it works perfectly. Smoke fills the room, people are yelling fire, and Irene Adler, in a single second, sprints over to a hidden panel to save her leverage. Holmes sees it. He knows exactly where the photograph is. Case closed. Or so he thought. So, as Holmes and Watson are walking back to Baker Street, feeling pretty triumphant and planning to grab the photo in the morning, this slender young man in an overcoat hurries past them and says that simple phrase. Holmes hears the voice, he knows it, but he can't quite place it. For the first time, the great observer has been observed. When they show up the next day, the place is empty. Irene Adler is gone, but she left a letter for Holmes and a photograph of herself. Turns out, after that fire alarm, she got suspicious, so she disguised herself as a young man, followed Holmes home, and confirmed everything. She didn't just see through his plan, she completely outplayed him. So the question is, how does a perfect reasoning machine handle being beaten by wit, by instinct, and by a woman who was always one step ahead?
Ollie says, hope you like the video. Thanks for listening.